Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Mikael and this is what I learned today. Today, we're going to talk about one of the biggest ideas shaping our modern world, meritocracy. The idea that success depends on talent, effort, and hard work is something we hear everywhere. But is it true? Or is meritocracy just a new way to justify inequality? Let's talk about it. Inequality and its justifications. Across the world, inequality is increasing. The rich are becoming richer, and business profits are at record highs. Historically, societies have justified inequality in different ways. In the past, religion was used as a tool, kings ruled by divine right, and nobility held power because the church said they should. Then came the Enlightenment, introducing the idea that all people are created equal. This led to revolutions and modern constitutions that promise equality. But despite these promises, inequality still exists. The question is, how do we justify it now? Instead of divine right, we now use the idea of meritocracy. We say that anyone can succeed if they work hard enough. This belief allows extreme inequality to continue without serious challenge. The reality of social mobility. So, meritocracy is based on the idea that we all have equal opportunities to succeed. A carpenter's daughter can become a professor, and a cleaner's son can become CEO. But is this really true? Many studies show that social mobility, or the ability to move up the social and economic ladder, is much lower than we think. So, if a child's future success depends largely on their parents' status, then we don't have a true meritocracy. Instead, we have a system where privilege is passed down from generation to generation. A good example is the entertainment industry. Many famous actors come from family actors. This is also true in politics, business, and even academia. If success were only about talent and effort, we would not see so many children following in their parents' privileged footsteps. The power of persistence. So, social scientists measure social mobility using a concept called persistence. This looks at how much children's income, education, and social status match their parents. The higher the persistence, the lower the mobility. In countries like Brazil, the UK, and the US, persistence is very high. It just means that children from wealthy families are very likely to stay rich, while those from poor families struggle to move up. In places like Sweden and Denmark, mobility is a little better, but inequality still takes generations to correct. One study found that in Sweden, it takes over 100 years for a poor family to reach the average income level. In highly unequal countries, this can take even longer. Let's talk about the Great Gatsby curve. There is a clear link between inequality and social mobility. Countries with high inequality tend to have lower mobility. This is known as the Great Gatsby curve. If there's a huge gap between the rich and the poor, it becomes much harder for people to move up. In these societies, the very rich and very poor are the most likely to stay in their class. The rich stay rich because they have access to elite schools, professional networks, and family wealth. The poor stay poor because they lack these advantages. 1,000 years of privilege. A fascinating study looked at social mobility in England over 1,000 years. After William the Conqueror's invasion in 1066, a new ruling class of Normans took power. Researchers tracked the rare Norman surnames or last names over the centuries and found that even today, people with those names are overrepresented in elite universities like Oxford and Cambridge. This suggests that wealth and power can persist for many centuries, even after huge changes like the industrialization and democracy. If this is true, then the idea that modern society is based purely on merit is an illusion. The myth of rags to riches. Stories of individuals who rise from poverty to great success, like Oprah Winfrey or Andrew Carnegie, are often used to support the idea of meritocracy. But while these stories are inspiring, they are also very rare. French sociologist Pierre Berdaud calls these individuals les miraculous, or the miraculous ones. Their stories help convince society that the system is fair, even though for most people it's not. In reality, a majority of people remain in the social class they were born into. Paradox of inequality. Interestingly, the more unequal a country is, the more people believe in meritocracy. Researcher Jonathan Mids called this the paradox of inequality. The belief in meritocracy grows stronger in unequal societies, even though those societies actually have lower social mobility. Because people believe they live in a fair system, they're more willing to accept extreme inequality. They assume the rich must have worked harder and the poor must not have tried enough. This belief helps maintain the system even when the evidence suggests otherwise. Rethinking success. So what does all of this mean? If meritocracy is an illusion, what should we do about it? First, we must recognize that talent and hard work are not the only factors that determine success. Wealth and privilege play a huge role. Secondly, we need policies that promote real equality of opportunities, things like better education, better access to healthcare, and fair wages. If we want a fairer world, we can't rely on the myth of meritocracy. We must create systems that truly allow people to succeed based on their abilities and not just their background. Guys, thank you for listening today. If you found this discussion interesting, please share it with your friends and family. And remember, questioning the system is the first step to changing it. Until next time, I'm Mikael, and this is what I learned today. Bye.